This week, we're continuing our Creators Edition series of episodes with Nelson Blake II. We're going to be looking at a page from the middle of his Image Comics book, Romulus, co-created with writer Bryan Hill. We talk about the superhero reveal, building cool moments for characters, and how to get your audience to be part of the storytelling process. You're watching Strip Panel Naked, I'm Hass, and I'm going to show you some of the cool stuff lurking in the pages of some of the best comics. So this page is the first reveal of Ashlar proper, and starts off the big action scene that ends the book. But when you look at this page, it's quite different from what came before, and it seems like one of those classic superhero reveal moments, right?
Absolutely, 100%. Because we talked about how, everything is a little, not everything, but a lot of this is poetic. A lot of this is very subjective and in her head. And that page, what I really loved about that from just a comic book standpoint, not like in a self-aggrandizing, I did it or Bryan kind of way, but just rhythmically, right? When I read the first draft of the letters, and this was actually a draft that Bryan did, because when Bryan has the time, he likes to do a draft of the letters himself just to see the flow of the book. So I would read that, and what really got me was just the rhythm of the whole thing leading up to that page, and it's kind of like she's really jumping out into the story now. And let's be full disclosure here. Bryan and I are cheeseballs, okay? So all of this, all of the esoteric, secret society stuff and, Hermes Trismegistus and Illuminati, and we are 80s kids cheeseballs. So our characters are going to have theme songs and hero moments and villain moments and stuff like that. We live for that stuff. So that stuff is also an influence. And that's kind of the fun of the book for me, is the combination. This is both of those things, and it's kind of that layered stuff in there.
And you build this slow reveal to her across the top panels, this moment by moment reveal. And I mean, it feels quite epic. Is that a conscious choice just to be like, hey, how cool is this?
First panel is, she forged the sword. And I'm not going to say why, just in case people, spoilers, but she forged a sword. You see her reflection in the sword. You see her in almost complete silhouette, and then you see her in just half face silhouette, and then she really jumps out, full body, rooftop, superhero shot kind of thing. And it's a balance, right? Because I want to keep it within the vernacular of the book. I don't want it to fight the poetry of the book. So even doing something like this, there's some things going on with color that are a little bit of symbolism and stuff like that. So like, the sky is red, and that's kind of her sky, right? And so when you see the next page, there's this, the interior of the page is all this kind of green. And when she jumps into the shot, kicking in another kind of superhero moment, it's her red pouring in through the window to interrupt what was going on there from a color standpoint. So there is still some stuff playing with it, and I wanted to keep it really unified with everything else, but at the same time, there's a permission to have fun.
I also wanted to talk about this page because this is a turning point in the story being told. Because everything before this page is just fragments of moments. They don't necessarily tell a story in terms of a full scene or whatever. Instead, it's just a series of moments or emotive panels. And this page seems like it carries on that thread where the first panel sort of feels like one of those moments, but then suddenly it breaks that and turns into one scene.
Set up the cameras. And this is a scene. And that's totally on purpose. I think it's one of those things where Bryan, when I read the script, that's how I read his intention. And I felt that rhythmic kind of shift. And we have so many conversations. I don't remember if he specified that was the deal, but I think that's what he wrote. And so that's what I drew. And when I say that's what I drew, it goes back to a lot of the earlier questions you had about not putting a whole lot of things in background, making sure different panels are different colors in terms of the background, having a lot of this be really kind of flashcards of storytelling information in the first half, because we want to keep it moving. We want to keep it, as visceral as we can be. We come from the theory that exposition doesn't have to be bad or boring. And in the case of a comic book or a story, I think it's very easy for it to be interesting either when something's at stake or when it's really personal. So having that kind of personalized exposition, it really works to keep it flashcard style. And then there's this obvious contrast when we are in a very sequential kind of comic.
On the subject of exposition, you've got a book like this where there's actually quite a lot of information to get across. You've got to tell the audience quite a lot of stuff and backstory, and you're able to get quite a lot of that done in only 10 pages, so you can just crack on with the meat of the story.
Oh, for sure. And that goes back to the clarity, and making a lot of things symbols of themselves, going back to the hand with the pills. A hand with pills is a symbol. A hand with pills and you see the whole body of the person who has the pills, and you see the background of the place that they're standing in, that's not a symbol. And choosing as much as you can to remain as iconic and symbolic. If you read Primal Branding and stuff like that, it's some of the same ideas, that everything is a symbol, shapes mean certain things, and so reducing something to a shape and reducing something to a symbol gives you the freedom to ask your audience for participation. If you're going to give them a whole bunch of information, you can't give them that and then ask them, hey, now do this, because you've put them in a situation where they're expecting you to, blab on and on and on about what's happening in a panel.
So you're actively working to build your audience to be part of your story, which is something that I've mentioned on numerous episodes of Strip Panel Naked in the past, figuring out a way to get your audience to be part of that storytelling process and building it with you. But it's really interesting to hear an artist's take on it too. And that's it for the second part of our chat with Nelson Blake II, discussing his new Image Top Cow book with Bryan Hill, Romulus. Thanks for watching. If you're a fan of Strip Panel Naked, we'd love for you to check out and support our Patreon at patreon.com/strippanelnaked, where you can get access to reading lists, extra articles, more content from these creators edition, and pages of annotated comics. And actually, we're starting a comic book club where every month we'll get together and chat through a new comic. You can also follow me at Hassanoui on Twitter, where I do more comics talk and analysis, and hit subscribe to keep up to date with every new issue of the show. And we'll see you here back next weekend.